How do we find the answers to life after death? And what do we do with the answers when we actually find them?
Real Paranormal Television.
With your host, Grayson Schmidt.
I've been an investigator and researcher of the paranormal for over 25 years, and I've been able to investigate some amazing places. But it's not just the places. I've been able to work with some amazing people too. We seek out the answers and get behind the scenes of real paranormal investigations. From orbs to Ouija boards, we will be discussing the hot topics of the paranormal world to try to find out the truth, to explore why we are here, and where do we go when we die. Is this all? Or do we move on to somewhere else? Just what exactly lies beyond this thin veil of life?
Real Paranormal Television.
Hi, this is Brian,
And I'm Phil from Extreme Paranormal Investigators.
and you are watching Real Paranormal Television.
Thank you for joining me for another episode of Real Paranormal Television. So far in the episodes, I took you on an adventure to Roosevelt Island to take a look at one of my first investigations. It was fantastic. That gave me a lot of experience and allowed me to learn so much about what the paranormal investigating and researching aspect of what we do really means. It's all about experimentation. It's all about learning. It's all about growing and becoming a true paranormal investigator. First, it's got to start with that little spark, that little something that sets the beginning and the basis for all other investigations. Another thing is coming into your own within the investigating world. Now, everybody has their own way of going about things, and there's some tried and true methods that really hold true to real paranormal investigating. But despite all that, you have to approach what you do from your own perspective. You can apply all of the techniques that are out there, but still, you are the one thing that will remain the same. You can apply the techniques that other people have used, you can devise your own, you can use tried and true methods, but when we apply specifics of technology, that has to be done the same way every time. Now, it's not just capturing data. It's not just getting the grand trophy of photographs, and it's not getting the best EVP in the entire world. That doesn't matter. EVPs are out there. Spirits are out there, and our ability to capture them is getting exponentially better. Now, how that's happening is that people out there in our field are taking the time and applying discipline and techniques, using technology, using data logging equipment, and using other methods of capture that are definitely a cut above the rest. That's what we're interested here in Real Paranormal Television. I'm also interested in speaking with people that are on the next level, that are taking things to the extreme. In moving forward, we're going to test the boundaries of some of the latest technology. We're going to take a look at how that technology applies to data capture in our field. And we're also going to be going over a lot of the aspects of the technology that is available for us for use. The problem is a lot of people use that technology differently. We have to create some kind of standard for data capture. What I mean by that is that we want to make sure that people understand how to use their cameras, because everybody's in the digital age now. When I started, I was using 35mm film like a lot of my colleagues. Now, we came up and have been in this field for quite a long time. Technologies change, and we roll with the punches. There's nothing wrong with that. But the technology advances, especially when it comes to digital photography, have advanced leaps and bounds, exponentially. And understanding the use of the camera, understanding how to set your exposures, how to set your f-stop, how to set something as simple as ISO, which is now an international standard, but it used to be ASA, and that's basically your film speed. When you used to buy film for a 35mm camera, you would buy it by the ASA. 100 ASA, 400 ASA, 800 ASA. For paranormal explorers, adventurers, researchers, and investigators, we tended to go more for the 1000 ASA, 1200, 1600. What I personally believed, and when I was doing research and investigations using 35mm cameras, I would go for the higher ASA film. And what that means is I was trying to capture something that moved quickly. What we're looking for is elusive. It has no boundaries. So what we want to do is capture as quick a movement in as short amount of time as humanly possible. Now, using that technology, we can actually go beyond the means or the ability of a human being to capture something that's moving even faster than we can see it. So that's what we do. You can go to a manual setting by switching the dial on top of your camera to manual, and then you can basically change all the parameters of your film capture in order to speed up the ISO. Speeding up the ISO will eliminate virtually most all dust particles that you're capturing at a site. Now, why is that important? People believe that every piece of dust, and especially people that are new to the field, is a spirit. This is just not the case. We want to be able to separate what's a particulate in the air, meaning a piece of dust, a fiber, skin cells, whatever's floating in the air, whatever's dropping from the ceiling. We want to be able to eliminate that and move faster than those pieces would be interpreted by the camera as a circle. The reason that they're circles is the film lens is a circle. It basically just follows the lens of the camera. So when we speed up the ISO of the camera, it basically eliminates capturing orbs unless there's something more to them. When you speed the ISO of your camera up to 1600, 1200, that's probably one of the best two settings you could possibly use. It's for fast action. That'll eliminate blur in your pictures. That'll eliminate the investigator in the background that seemed to move fast and on a lower ISO setting appears to be this blurry, shadowy figure. You can get rid of that and stop that investigator dead in their tracks. The lens of the camera picks it up faster than the person could actually move. So it eliminates that blurring effect. Then you also have your exposure settings, and a lot of people see these lights that are, wavy, shapes or something in the air. That's because the exposure, the lens of the camera has been open for a long period of time and has allowed light within that frame to become this linear form. That's not a spirit. We want to eliminate that. So again, we're going to look at some of the settings on the cameras, and I'm going to go over some of these things with you so that you guys can really start taking your pictures at another level. Your cameras, the digital cameras that are available now, are amazing. They do incredible things, but they can also be used to deceive. And we want to make sure that the one person that's not being deceived is you as an investigator. We want to make sure that your data capture is accurate. We want to be able to make sure that your data capture can be scrutinized. We're going to go over a lot of these things, and we're going to cover a lot of these things. Some of you already know all about this, and thank you so much for spending the time watching this part of the episode. We're going to move on to some other things, which are really cool. Stick around.
Going then.
Are you doing video there? Yeah. Oh, that's gotta look great. Just crazy. There goes one. Hoping we'll have access to it. Here. Welcome to the basement.
I had the opportunity recently to investigate with a couple good friends of mine. We went to this location called the Eagle Club, which isn't the Boy Scouts. This was something totally different. It was a gentleman's club that used to host a lot of really interesting events. And whoever these Eagle Club guys were doing something interesting there too. And it almost seemed ritualistic. It also had a ballroom, so a lot of social events were held there. But it was mostly a gentleman's club. Later, it's become what's called Ballroom on High. This means the ballroom that's there is on High Street in Pottstown, PA. Really cool location. We were so lucky to be able to get in there and look around. I'll show you some of the pictures from that investigation that I took. But I also had some pretty incredible things happen while I was there. I did get EVP capture. I did actually see something, though it was incredibly brief, up in one of the second floor storerooms that I pointed out to the other members. Now, they didn't happen to see it. It was just one of those things. You guys have experienced this, where there was definitely something there, and then it was gone in a split second. So again, you know, we can't always have our cameras right there facing exactly where the events are taking place. You just got to get lucky sometimes. For me at least, it was a reconnaissance mission. It was more of a means to start understanding the location a little better. When I go to a location for the first time, I like to take my time and walk around the location, get a feel for it, get a gut reaction to it. Find out if the place has anywhere within the building, whether it's a dark, gloomy corner or not, that happens to set off my little alarms, my bells and whistles. I wouldn't say I'm psychic. I definitely seem to have, for some reason, intuitive inclinations, and I follow that. I listen to that. And you know something? A lot of the times it becomes very accurate. I don't question it. It just comes to me. So when I get information at a site that just sort of comes to me, I react to it. I note it down, I speak it out, and whether it seems crazy or not at the time, it's better to put it out on the table, because later at the end, when you're sitting and culminating all of your data collection, then you can see whether or not these inclinations that you had at the location actually pan out and become something. So what I like to do is to go in and just kind of get a gut check to the location. Try to find out if I'm really picking up on something there. I also keep my recorder on, and I keep a personal digital recorder with me at all times. Pretty much from the moment I get to the location, I turn it on, and I don't turn it off until I leave. We want something to be interactive. We want something to have a sort of intelligence to it so that we can sort of tap in and find out, really take the pulse of the location and anything that's there. When you're there at a location, provoking, like I've said in the past, really, hey, if you want to provoke, that's your business. But you know something, if you sit back and allow the location to reveal itself to you, if it wants to, it will. It's just like being in a room full of people. Some people you're going to like, some people you're going to become really good friends with. Some people, you just don't, you're like oil and water. That's normal. But you know what? That's the same thing with spirits. Spirits were people too, for the most part. I'm not going to say all of them are, but definitely a lot of them are. So when you deal with spirits, if you're respectful, if you can speak their language, if you can tie in somehow to their time period, then you might actually be able to encourage them to speak with you. If you're respectful, that's a good start. If you have a way to kind of coerce in a non-prodding way, you have to understand, you might be dealing with a child. You might be dealing with someone who's shy. You know, there's a lot of different reasons. You might be dealing with something that just wants to be left alone. You also sometimes might be dealing with somebody very angry. Now, when you're dealing with an angry spirit, don't misconstrue that lashing out by the spirit as something necessarily evil. That's just not the case all the time. If somebody was evil in life, they're probably going to be evil in death. So that's something we're going to look into also. And as part of what the incredible thing about this show has been, for me at least, is to be able to really sit down with my friends, with my peers in this field, and chat with them and get inside their head a little bit to find out what they're thinking, what their interpretation is, and to really kind of come to some kind of understanding so that I can bring that to you and we can all look over this together. In this episode, I'm going to be sitting down with Brian and Phil from Extreme Paranormal Investigators. These guys are really cool. They use some really good equipment, and you know what's interesting is each one of them has a different opinion about what the paranormal is. Some are skeptics, some are believers, some are sensitive, and that's a really amazing mix. It's amazing to be able to get in as a group of friends, and as friends you don't necessarily have to agree, but you can at least come together and rely on each other, your strengths, your weaknesses, to really be able to lay into the answers as to what's going on at a site you're investigating. Brian and Phil, how did you guys get started with Extreme Paranormal Investigators?
My aunt and uncle passed away. I was real close to them, so my uncle passed away July 3rd of 2006, and I kind of was just holding on to that, and then eventually in 2010, Sandra and I basically went out and did our first investigation, real basic equipment, etc. So basically it was the death of them. I was very close to them. I just kind of wanted to know, what was next in life, if there is anything. So that's kind of how I got into it.
I got into it about 3 years ago. I met Brian about then, and I just jumped in head first with going out on investigations with Brian. I've always had the interest in the paranormal, and never looked back.
What type of investigations do you guys primarily focus on?
We have a lot of interest in doing investigations that are based around historical events or places that have historical meanings to them. We've traveled to Virginia and Delaware and all over the southeast Pennsylvania just to look for historical areas. So that's what EPI we really like to focus on, is the history of what's going on.
Is it a specific location? I mean, are there any places that stick out in your mind more than others?
There is, but I mean, we go to locations that we don't even know if there's activity or anything. Like Phil said, it's all historical, but there are definitely some investigations that stick out. And I know for one, Brandywine was crazy. We did a canoe investigation.
Can you tell me more about that?
Oh yeah, we the Brandywine, if anyone's familiar with it, that they call it a creek, but it's a creek, but people call it a river. However, tons of history along that creek from Coatesville or even Honeybrook at the source, the mouth.
In Pennsylvania, you mean?
Correct.
Right?
Yeah, Pennsylvania. It goes obviously through Pennsylvania into Delaware, but the history along that creek, in the Battle of Brandywine, there were mills, forges that were all on there, abandoned steel mills. We found cemeteries that were just abandoned, that nobody knew of, that haven't been touched for decades. But the history, I mean, even to today, today's times, there are people that go out there and kayak after a huge storm that are drowning. So you have people recreationally that are out there that end up, perishing and dying from doing stupid things. But there's also some folklore. I can sit here and talk about that for hours. But it's neat. We're hopefully going to do a DVD on that investigation. We have tons of video and audio that we're still trying to go through and put some stuff together. But man, it was just really cool to be out on a canoe at night and being out on the creek, and we would go to certain areas, the Johnston gang, there were murders back then. They murdered people from their gang, their internal gang, I guess you would say, the kids. It was just crazy, but yeah, that really sticks out for me. And the Euclid Meeting House, that was an old Quaker meeting house that became a hospital for the Revolutionary War and Civil War, and it's also associated with the Underground Railroad. So we're hoping to get back out there and do more research application. I found a book that some guy wrote in like 1903, and it talks about the Brandywine from the mouths all the way to Delaware, and the Lenape Indians, what they did through there, Indian villages and stuff. And the information that we found, me and Phil cross-referenced this, and along this guy's journey, we stopped at all these points. And this is something that somebody forgot about, I mean, Sandy Flash, Mordecai Doherty, and James Fitzpatrick, the Battle of Brandywine, Lenape villages, the Insane Asylum, the Brandywine Poorhouse, Indian Hannah, mean, it just goes on, the list, and the history through there is just phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. So,
And you mentioned the Quaker House. Is that something that's open to the public, or is that?
yeah, it is. It's a little tough to get in there. The members are a little bit old school, I would say, but we did manage to get in there. Basically, Yellow Springs, George Washington set up the first official hospital there, and General Otto, who was the head surgeon. That hospital became so full that they went up the street and they basically acquisitioned the Quaker House, told them to get out by gunpoint. They pointed guns out and said, all right, we need to get out of here, we're using this as a hospital. So that's where that all starts from there. And then, from our research and everything, it's also associated with the Underground Railroad. And you went down in the basement. Well, it's not even a basement, it's a crawl space.
Yeah, it's just a kind of a crawl space in the floor.
Yeah, Phil put on the mask and everything. was heading down there, which was pretty cool. Really neat. But that place to me also had the most activity. And you can experience a lot of the stuff that we have on video, on film, where they were experiencing cameras being ripped off, that were set up with gaff tape, if you're familiar with that. I mean, this stuff's like concrete, well, not concrete, but it's pretty hefty stuff. And they were securing cameras now, and one command, they were coming off, so and there was no trickery involved, so we don't mess with that kind of stuff. But it was really neat. And then direct responses out in the cemetery. They buried soldiers out there. There's some other stuff too, I think, that happened that we don't know. Obviously, the stories that what transpired through there, but really neat place. Hopefully, we'll get out there one day.
Now, you'd mentioned at the Quaker House, Phil, you went down into the basement or the crawl space of this location and you wore a mask. I mean, are you really up on the safety factor of investigating, and how important is that to you guys?
Like we like to say, we're being safe. We try to take any precautions that we can. Obviously, if we're going into a crawl space of a church that's 200-300 years old, obviously we're going to wear protection, for breathing. And there's been a couple other investigations that we've worn face masks. So, we're not, 100% on the safe side sometimes, but we do try to take any precautionary steps that we can take.
It's fantastic. There's nothing like preparedness. I mean, what about supplies and material? Let's say you're out at one of these remote locations and it's isolated. Do you have a means to get out, or a plan, like an escape plan, a plan B?
Yeah, I don't know. Probably want to take that one.
We're big Second Amendment people. All the members on our team carry, believe it or not. So I'm more afraid of live people than I am of a spirit or ghost, to be honest. And I think that for real, like if there's females that are out by themselves, which I don't suggest, but if they're in a group, I think they should protect themselves, not only from spirits, malevolent spirits or anything like that, but also from people. I mean,
You know what, to cut you off there, perfect case, we were doing a bar restaurant maybe a year and a half ago, and while we were there doing an investigation on the second floor, somebody broke in on the bottom floor through the kitchen, and we actually heard them and
come in,
called out for them, and they ran not knowing that somebody was upstairs. And it was a night like that kind of makes you wonder, what could I have done differently and not come home? So, obviously, guns got drawn. And, we walked out of there with our backs to the car, and,
we actually too, sorry to interrupt, but when we went outside, okay, what was going on? A spirit or whatever, and we looked through the dew of the grass and we could see footsteps. So somebody was in there and they ran physically. So could have been a spirit, could have been, we think
it was somebody broke in. And,
we think somebody came in. We don't know. I mean, several theories. Could have been somebody from the location. Okay, I want you to go in there and scare them and or it could have been somebody really breaking in that night, trying to get in. So, but again, it's just safety, security. You can't be too safe. I mean, you should have a first aid kit, you know, a lot of other stuff. Maybe we're a little extreme, that hence the name. So, you know, but you can never be too safe. You know what I mean, when it comes to that kind of stuff, because there are locations where people go that, again, I'm more worried about the people that are out there versus the spirits that are, you know.
I'm like, if something on the paranormal side wants to attack us, you know, I think every person in our group would rather just go with the flow and see where that goes, just for, you know, the profession of it, you know, what's going to happen. That's why we do this. But, you know.
It hasn't happened yet.
Hasn't happened yet.
Well, probably.
Probably never will.
Yeah.
Now, can you tell me, we're here in an amazing location in Pottstown, Pennsylvania, and again, a beautiful representation of our history in this area. Can you tell me a little bit about the background of the location that we're at, and a little bit about why we're here tonight?
Yeah, well, real quick, this is the Eagles Club. It was built in 1929. This is basically a place, a congregation for men to come, like a men's club. Real neat architecture. I mean, they don't build buildings like this anymore. I mean, the walls are like 2 feet thick. You know, you could ram a tank in here to take you out and get in. But this was a big place. Down the basement, you had a bowling alley and billiards. Up here on the I guess this would be called the second floor, you had a dance floor. They would have big bands come in, vaudeville acts and all that stuff. Also, my grandfather was a vaudeville actor as well. So, you know, it was just a real happening spot. You know, people didn't really go to the city, but they came here. If you were in Pottstown or other surrounding locations, they would come here. This was a spot to come to. So, a lot of cigar smoking, a lot of drinking and partying and carrying on. So, as well, there's been some dancers here that have experienced different things, being touched, hearing voices. We've conducted an investigation here about, what, a year and a half ago, sometime. We caught a couple interesting EVPs, maybe like 3 or 4, that were real interesting, real neat. So there is a lot of history here, and that's, again, something that we're attracted to, and no one's ever been here that we know of to investigate. So this is great that we have Grayson here with us tonight, you know, to come and experience some stuff, you know, so.
Can you tell me a little bit about the history of Pottstown? Are you aware of like the actual history and how the town got established at all, or this area?
I don't know a thing about Pottstown.
I just know that it's fairly old. I think it was established like right before the Revolutionary War. I know Washington frequented this area, would stop along. Yeah, the Schuylkill right along here, and they did a lot of just transportation. I think they also had some channels down a little bit further towards Kimberton, where they actually had horses and they would draw, you know, bring transportate, you know, certain materials, etc. So I'm not quite like a guru of Pottstown history, but I know there is some definitely good history here. They do have a historical society where we went to do research for the Eagles Club, and we picked out some really interesting pictures. Real neat to see what was, you know, going on in here. You can definitely see the energy, the entertainment, you know, kind of like a little good old boys club. So hopefully you'll be able to see those pictures in the interview and check those out.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Would you mind if I, you know, post some of those pictures on the show, and then that way they can see what we're talking about? Because you showed me some amazing pictures of the history of this place.
Absolutely, yeah. And I definitely want to say thank you to Farrell Caspati, how do you say the name? Farrell, who's actually the owner of Ballroom High, and he actually invited us in and invited us again in tonight, you know, to come in. So big ups to him, and thank you very much. Appreciate it.
So far as paranormal investigations are concerned, what do you feel is the next wave of investigations? I mean, we see these shows and, you know, there are trends. You know, this is just the latest trend for some people. Some people are experienced hunters and they just go in with cameras and recorders and just try to get the basic, you know, a voice or a picture or something interesting. But where do you think it's going? What do you think the next step for investigators is going to be?
Me personally, I think data logging, getting any type of information, that the more data you can get, the better. And I think data logging is definitely something that more teams need to do, but that cost there, that initial cost to get this equipment, man, it's like, unless you're independently wealthy, it's tough. I mean, you know, just to buy a baseline data logger can end up costing you $1,000, you know, and that's maybe like 3 or 4 sensors, and that's just straight, you know.
Now, what type of data logging? Are you looking at just frequency, or are you looking at EMF, or are you looking at a combination? Or
all the big ones. I mean, gamma, EMF, temperature, barometric pressure, static, electricity. You know, all the big ones that you know, randomly pop up. Yeah, I think it's a way of the future. Because you know, if anyone's going to take our field serious, you know, you have to bring. You just can't, like you say, you can't go out with a camera and record and be like, ooh, you know, you got to have all that information. Scan everything from radio frequency, I think, which is huge, magnetic frequencies, all the above. You know, the more stuff you bring, the better. I think we're talking about doing soil samples, going to locations, taking soil samples. I also want to look into also data logging oxygen levels to see if there's any fluctuations in oxygen during a instance. And also, Phil and I and Sandra discussed we're looking to do actually data log our vitals, and we're talking to a company where, and here's another thing where you got big money, for 3 units it's going to cost us $5,000 for 3 units to monitor EKG, heart rate, I think perspiration or something of that nature, and then also I don't know if they have anything for I'm looking for brain waves, anything, which I think would be really cool. So we are talking to them. The units are very awesome, and I think as much as us monitoring the environment, I think we should monitor ourselves. For people that are sensitive, like Sandra and Grayson, and people that aren't so sensitive, like me, and then people that are in between, like Phil. So no one's really doing that. I think if you bring that into the flux of things, I think we're going to gather more information. You know, Sandra or Grayson's out there, and they experience something, but all of a sudden you see all these data.
somebody's getting killed out there.
Anyway, we're back. So basically, with those vitals, the data loggers, to get sensitive people, is there going to be anything that all of a sudden we see a spike in something before that instance, or is it as it's happening? So that to me, I think taking that information and putting that into the investigation, here you go, here's what we got. So that's kind of the level, I think, and I hope everyone thinks like that. And I was telling Phil, like when we first started, we had, you know, a camera and an audio recorder, you know, walking around, hey, there's something more to this, you know what I mean? So we researched, we read, and just took ideas and bits and pieces from different groups and certain people, and you know, come up with your own thing, you know. So that's pretty much it.
Phil, what's your approach to this? I mean, I've heard Brian talk about, you know, how he approaches things. Are you a believer or are you a skeptic?
A little bit of both. What I believe is what we found. You know, there's certain EVPs that we've gotten that, you know, we can't explain. I hear the voices on there. Do I believe there's ghosts? No, I don't believe there's a ghost. I do believe that there's energy, though, and I believe that's what people really need to focus on, is the energy, not, you know, a ghost. I think there's a big difference between the two. You know, that's more where I'm at with it, is I don't necessarily believe there's an afterlife, but I do believe there is that energy that gets left behind, and I think that's what we are looking for, and I think that's what we capture.
Really interesting. I mean, that's a really interesting approach too. I mean, not believing in an afterlife. Is this part of, you know, are you religious or spiritual at all, or?
I grew up religious. I'm not religious anymore. It's just, I don't know, personal experiences. You know, I'm one of those people that I need to see, I need proof in order to move forward with believing or anything like that. So, you know, unless it's put front of me on a nice silver dish, chances are is I'm going to question it. And that's exactly what I do, and that's sometimes works for the betterment of the group. Is I pull everybody back down, and tell them how it is really. Sometimes we go a little too far with thinking that there's something in the room with us, and we have to be grounded. So I think my beliefs on that is good for that reason.
That's wonderful. And grounding's very important. I mean, because you always have to bring things back to center, and that's how we best keep it real in this profession. I mean, this is something that people take very seriously. And, if we're doing, research or investigations into someone's home, and especially if it's a death of a loved one, now you guys are dealing more with historical locations. So, I mean, do you feel any kind of emotional attachment to any place? Is there any place that, you go to and, man, you just feel in your gut that something's going on there?
I'll take this one, right? There have been times where you do get involved in a case. There was one we did a couple years ago. It was a lady's house that lost her husband. That case hit home for everybody because it was not our normal type of investigation. We're normally going into these old buildings that have historical value, whereas this was somebody who lost a loved one and was experiencing things in their house and needed answers. Those kind of things, we do get more involved with. And there was a lot of, I wouldn't say controversy, but there was a lot of drama with that case and how things unfolded. And we did get a lot of stuff on that one, which was intelligent responses, which is for somebody, for me, that needs to see that proof is good proof. When I can ask a specific question and I get an answer back, and that answer is exactly what I was looking for, that's amazing. And there's other times, when we did the Brandywine in the middle of a cornfield, and we're getting spikes on our equipment, and we have no way to explain it, and then, next thing you know, you're sick to your stomach, and that carries with you. And I know just from that weekend, I'm like, it was a couple of days for us to start feeling normal again, and really we had to recover from that trip, not just physically, but mentally as well.
Do you feel like you were actually picking up on some of the energies from maybe a battle or a war or something that had taken place?
I wish I knew what we were picking up on. We always like to joke that it was Hat Man, kind of an urban legend in this area.
Can you tell me more about that? That's really interesting.
Yeah, well, Hat Man, I was researching Brandywine and came upon where a girl and a guy saw this figure, and he had a brim hat, shadows sucking in light, etc. This was along the Brandywine. This girl, they were feeling uneasy, and she looked up and in the woods saw this thing, and she just got real like, what the heck? And so she started to walk, and she wanted to leave, and the boyfriend's like, wait a minute, and okay, I was looking at this guy, and then he started to feel uneasy, and they both confirmed that they saw this figure. So they started running. As they were running, they looked in front of them, and this person appeared in front of them. One of our other investigators, Joe Crawford and myself, went down there at night to go look for him, you might say. And as well as the Brandywine investigation, we went down and tried to look for him. And we think we might have touched base with this person or thing or entity or whatever it is. But if you look up Hat Man, it's very interesting. It's a worldwide thing where people have experienced. Normally they see him at the foot of their bed inside of my research and everything. But yeah,
to cut you off there, we actually run a page on Facebook that is for Hat Man, and we have people that constantly write us and tell us their experiences about it, and it's the same definition of what this figure is, except it's all over the world. And from just our personal experience, You know, I don't necessarily think it was a spirit, but I definitely do think it was a level of evilness that was there. The first night we were out on the Brandywine, and you know, it was a nice quiet night. The second evening, you know, we started down the creek, and we got to a point, and the whole night just changed.
You really picked up.
Yeah, I'm like, it just didn't feel right. It didn't feel normal, and it did have a sense of evilness there with it. I know when it first started picking up, you know, I kept thinking there was somebody up over my shoulder.
Sandra was feeling easy too.
Yeah, and Sandra
she
was
said,
feeling
don't listen to it.
Yeah.
Don't listen to the recorder. I'm like, play it.
You know, and then further down, and we went further down, we got out, and that's when we were in the cornfield, and we had, you know, the experience there. And then even later, it was either that trip or the second trip, Sandra and I went up a hill, and we actually saw
Second trip.
a dark mass. We were facing each other, and we both saw it over here at the same time, and we both, you know, snapped our necks looking at the same exact time. And there was nothing there. We were literally on top of the hill where we saw this black mass would have been floating past the hill. And that whole night, I'm like, Sandra was more sensitive to it, and you know, we were at the spot we were because she didn't want to go any further because she felt a presence. And so we stopped out of respect to that presence that she was feeling, and maybe 5-10 minutes into discussing, you know, different things is when we saw that flash go by us.
To the location where we experienced the Hat Man, there's a cemetery there where they numbered the graves for the insane asylum, where they buried people, as well as there was a Lenape village in that location where we, you know, picked up that stuff. So was that something else that might have been in there? But also the Hat Man slightly was in that area as well.
Do you think it's a shadow person, or do you think it's an actual entity?
I don't know, but I would like to.
I would go more on shadow person, just kind of from different stories we've heard about it, and obviously what Sandra and I experienced was a dark shadow flying across the hilltop with us. That's when I first really started getting that feeling of somebody over my shoulder. It didn't feel like there was a physical person there. It felt like there was just that like, it was unexplainable. It just, you know, something was there.
So physiological reaction to this thing in some way. I mean, did you experience tingling or goosebumps or presence or?
From that night, from that spot on, the rest of the night, all of us were experiencing, you know, uneasiness with our stomachs, and
I actually had to take a knee. I walked maybe 10 feet, and Grayson, you know, I'm a guy that's not sensitive to this stuff at all, and I'm the first one into the areas where it's dark, whatever, you know, creepy. I don't get, you know, and that night when that happened, I think I walked maybe like 5 yards or so, and I had to take a knee and chill.
I'm like, there was one point where the group stood and I went farther, and I was having tightness in my chest, and you know, the goosebumps, you know, I get goosebumps everywhere. I get the goosebumps just talking about that night.
Yeah, it's funny because whenever this reporting of the Hat Man, doom, gloom, dread happens to that person that sees it, like from our research.
And we've never experienced them. Like, we've been to numerous places before and after that, and we've never experienced anything to that level again. I'm like, there's been places, you know, where you feel uneasy, but never like there's just evil on your shoulder.
We're going to take you there.
Another perfect example of that would be Brian and I were walking on the train tracks down on the Brandywine, and we got to a certain point, and it just, the air in the environment just got cold.
Like a freezer.
Like walking into a freezer, and just felt very uneasy.
This was in July 3rd? August? It was 70 degrees at night.
Yeah, it was, you know, late July, early August, somewhere around there. And it was like walking into a freezer. And you start to feel uncomfortable, and the further we walked, the more you felt uneasy. And we finally we were probably about 200 yards from Sandra and Joe, and we started hearing a woman screaming. So, naturally we started walking back thinking that something had happened to Sandra. And as we got back up there, Sandra, they were fine. They were just whispering on the bridge, and they didn't hear any screaming. Turned out later, as we were retelling that occurrence to somebody who is from the area, he actually came out and told us that maybe 40, 50 years earlier than from our experience, there was a man had murdered his wife, almost in the exact same spot that we felt that freezer coldness. And
he got goosebumps, remember? Because
yeah,
we're discussing it.
He literally stopped us in our conversation and was terrified that we were saying this, because he forgot to tell us, but it was his friend's father that did it. He never was charged with the murder, and he had to grow up with his father knowing that he had killed the mother in that spot that we had felt that and heard the screaming and felt like we were walking into the freezer. And
yeah, it was crazy. And then we took Sandra through there. We felt like, hey,
Yeah.
let's just take Sandra through and see what happens. And we're walking, and she just
yeah.
put on the brakes, and she's like, what the hell?
I mean, we took them, and we didn't tell them anything. We just said, we want you to come in and walk. And it was the same exact spot, the same exact, threshold of walking into a freezer. And she picked up on it right away. And,
Do you feel like you were picking up on the lady's presence or the actual action of the murder?
I have to go with that. We were picking up on the energy of what happened there. The guy did describe it, that it was very brutal, what happened. And I just think, we picked up on the energy of this poor woman getting murdered.
Didn't she crawl up the hill? I think she crawled up the hill and died at the top of the hill or something like that.
I don't remember. I know where they found her was pretty much on the spot of where we were walking into coldness.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was neat. And I'm one that's not into the whole sense thing, but even I sensed that and thought it was pretty cool. It was very, very cool. I loved it.
What's your opinion about demons? Do you believe demons exist? Do you believe that we're dealing with multidimensional beings, which are called ultra-terrestrials? Or do you feel that there was an actual evil presence on this planet at some point in time that is the culmination of all evil?
Evil presence, definitely. I might flip on CNN and you'll see the American government. That's an evil presence. But on the terms of Satan and demons, I don't believe in that. Just as I don't believe on, angels and, that other side of the board. But I do believe, again, like I said, with energies, and I believe that there is negative energy that builds up, and I do believe that there's positive energy that builds up. And I think sometimes that's what people confuse for angels and demons. That's my personal belief on that. I don't think it's, Grandpa Joe that died and became my angel. And I don't think it's, Uncle Tom that died and became, the devil spawn. I just believe it's energies that collect. If there's a lot of negative energy, I think they can kind of absorb into something that's just evil. Like we talked about with Hatman. I think it's just a collective collection of evil energy.
Or some type of being from another dimension that pops in, pops out. I'm kind of open to all of it. I definitely think, all these locations, we've done close to 50 investigations, and I've never come across anything demonic. You know what I mean? So it's far and few. If it is it something from, is it alien-like? Something that was here prior to the existence of man or during when man was here? This is going, looking into things, really opening up your some people call it conspiracy and, whatever, but, possibility, you know what I mean? There has to be other stuff
Yeah, I mean, my throw on it is that I believe that if we are, encountering things like demons or demonic energies, we're actually dealing with the spirits of Nephilim or Anunnaki that possibly died here on the planet. It's very foreign from our experience and would actually approach, life or, spirituality very differently than we would. And obviously, if it died here on the planet, and didn't get back to its own planet or its own death ritual or to, freely roam where it wants to go, and it's trapped here, I think it'd be pretty pissed off. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would not rule that out whatsoever. If you talk to Sandra Dee, who's not here with us, she definitely talks about, fairies and certain entities, not quite to what you would think of how TV portrays it, the media and everything, but she thinks at one time there were certain beings and creatures that could have roamed on the planet. I don't even rule that out too. So, but like you have these demonologists and all this. You see groups like we just dealt with a demon, and it seems like they get demons every other investigation. It's like, dude, what are you doing?
It's pretty amazing, right?
It is. Well, I mean, they're like, hey man, they're on top of it. So, but I think it's just keeping it real. You know what I mean? And it's being true to yourself, and I think it's being true to everyone else in the field in itself. Just, why mess with things? Leave it as it is. Bring that information. Don't screw with it. And do some thinking, some analytical thought along the way, and come up with some protocols, and set things in sequence, and you'll be on your way. I think that's what we all need to do as investigators. Is, do that kind of that work.
Do you feel that there's any group or individual out there that's actually doing it the right way?
Heck yeah. Quite a few people. Well, not quite a few, but a select few. I definitely have to give, who I'm going to say, Dave Roundtree his props. I mean, I learned a lot from him. His book is amazing. The guy's in a whole other area. Grayson, your stuff that you do, I definitely, from talks and discussion, I find you very intriguing. Also, on top of things, I can't wait to do the investigation tonight with you and others in the future. The stuff on TV, it's kind of like, I'm a dancer, right? So the movies, like the dance movies on TV in the movies, they're great. They're great for the scene. It helps get the scene, started and interest and everything, but it's not really the scene. It's not what really goes on. Same with these TV shows. It's good to get people interested. Okay, what's there, but I don't think they're doing justice to the people that have been in the field. Like Phil and I, we're wet behind the ears. We're newbies, you know what I mean? And we know as such, and we keep it that way. We try to keep it real. We do keep it real. We don't mess with stuff, as far as, let's do this or Photoshop this or whatever.
But even Brian wants to say that we're noobs, in which we are, but we're still so much farther advanced than a lot of groups out there that have been doing it forever, because they ghost hunt. I'm famous for saying with everybody that interviews us is, we don't ghost hunt, we investigate the paranormal. And there's a huge difference there, and there's people out there that are trying to get their thrills and find ghosts and talk to grandpa. And then there's people out there that are just trying to get answers to questions that we all have. So, he sees a lot of groups that are going forward, and I just see a lot of groups that have their heads up their asses. They're fakes, and they need to be called out.
But you're hating on them if you do it.
Well,
Yeah.
hey, we got to call a spade, man. It is what it is, right?
It is, yeah.
But there's a lot of people that just go in the wrong direction, and they give the real investigators a bad rap.
Yeah, there's been people that have been doing it for, a long time.
We worked with a group once that came in with crystals and all this shit, and they walked out of there talking about orbs, and they caught so many orbs, and they caught 50 EVPs every night that they go out, and listen, we as a group probably have 10 solid EVPs that we would actually be willing to let somebody listen to, because
Out of 50 investigations, that's amazing. Like,
Yeah,
I think
and-
that's amazing.
I'm like, that's not saying that we didn't leave a lot on the floor. You know, we throw out a lot of stuff because it's, well, we can't say for sure that that wasn't this, or we can't say for sure that, you know, that wasn't a pipe over there or something. So we throw out a lot of stuff, and we don't jump to the conclusion that it's paranormal just because we heard it on our recorders.
Guys, thank you so much. And I don't want to hold you up. I know we got a lot to do tonight, but I just wanted to say thank you so much for interviewing with Real Paranormal Television, and thanks for being real guys out there doing the right thing, man. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Grace.
Thank you so much for watching another episode of Real Paranormal Television. I really hope you guys enjoyed the interview, and I really hope you guys enjoyed some of the pictures and the video from the location. The really cool place, Pottstown, PA, Ballroom on High, and the guys that I interviewed were Phil and Brian from Extreme Paranormal Investigators. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Real Paranormal Television.
Copy